of all of our.
Okay, aloha everyone. On behalf of Chair Ka'ana, I'd like to call our FestPAC Commission meeting to order. Can we start with a roll call vote? Let's see.
I can go ahead and take care of that for you.
Okay.
Commissioner Benham,
I am here and I am alone.
Commissioner De Silva,
I am here and I am alone, thank you.
Commissioner Lum,
I'm here and by myself.
Commissioner Onishi,
I'm here and alone.
Commissioner Bento, Commissioner Bento. Okay, we'll come back to Commissioner Bento. Commissioner Hussey,
I'm here and alone.
Commissioner Kyoho Kalole. I don't think he is present. He is excused. And then Commissioner Pu'u is excused. And I just see that Commissioner Ka'anana is here.
Aloha, I'm here and alone.
Mahalo, Commissioner Bento. Kalani,
I am here and nobody's in my office with me, but I wish I were alone. I apologize for being late, everyone. Aloha.
mahalo. We got started without you, just called the meeting to order and did a roll call.
Wonderful. So if I'm not mistaken, and I have to apologize. This is one of the fun things about transitioning back to in person. We're back in the office today and we're meeting with Google today about a number of things, but I had to run away. I was like, I gotta go. The first lady is waiting for me. My goodness.
That's okay, Kalani. You've done so much for us.
No. I apologize. But without any further ado, First Lady Ige, Danamano Ige, we're so grateful for you to be here to open our meeting today to share about your news. So I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Chair and members of the FestPAC Commission. I am so honored to be able to share with you about events at Washington Place. I was asked to do that, and I just wanted to give you an update of what's going on here at this historic home. 2022 marks the 175th anniversary of Washington Place. Just a bit of background before we get into the activities. When Captain John and his wife Mary Dominus completed the home in 1847, I don't believe they imagined that the house they built would be home to a queen, 7 territorial governors, and 8 state governors would use the home for official events, all with their families, friends, and associates. The home would endure challenges, celebrate family milestones, and bear witness to historic events that would shape Hawaii's history. The home is associated with the changing role of the United States in the world community and is the residence of our last reigning ali'i. And for these reasons, Washington Place is a National Historic Landmark. The 175th anniversary theme, E Ola Mau Ike Kumu, a strong foundation to grow and thrive, reflect the many aspects of life and leadership in the home. One foundation of the home is music. The Queen, as we all know, was a prolific musician, writing hundreds of compositions. At Washington Place, she wrote 3 songs. One was Oni Pa'a, the song of strength and perseverance. And kind of on the other end of the spectrum, she wrote Kavili Vili Vai here. And the song is about a sprinkler. She was relaxing on her veranda outside, saw a sprinkler next door going back and forth, and she wrote a song about that. She finished Aloha Oi at Washington Place. So those are the 3 pieces that are associated with Washington Place. At the home, her piano is that she received in 1892 continues to be the centerpiece of our parlors. The piano is made from a koa tree from the Big Island. It was sent to New York to J&C Fisher Company to be built. It was one of the premier piano companies at that time. It was sent back to Honolulu and presented to the Queen at Iolani Palace. The piano is in fine tune. In fact, Erin has played on the piano for us when the Crown Prince and Princess Akishino visited the home. So thank you. It was just a beautiful piece that he played, and it was just a beautiful way to invite our dignitaries into the home. So the 175th anniversary celebration opening ceremony, emceed by Kalani, thank you Kalani again, honored the Queen and honored her music. We had a hula presentation by over 2,300 fourth graders from across the state, and they performed to Eliliu E. We had 3 schools perform right here on the property, but we couldn't fit 2,300. So they performed virtually all at the same time. It was quite a chicken skin moment for many of us because we could see students participating and learning about the Queen, participating in the hula performance, and the comments that we got were so positive. In fact, I got comments from New York to Wisconsin to Minnesota about from grandparents actually looking for their kids on the screen. But it shows that it's one way that we can bring people together and teach people about our culture and our customs and traditions. The music of the Queen was featured throughout the weekend, and throughout the program, we hosted the Royal Hawaiian Band who performed the Queen's music. And as we know, the band, which was called Hawaiian Band at that time, performed for the Queen's birthdays right here on the Washington Place property. Those are just a few stories that are part of the home. I really would like to encourage you to come and visit the home. The second floor of Washington Place, which was renovated a couple of years ago, used to be the private residence for the occupants of the home, but now it's open to the public. We have a new exhibit on the second floor featuring the Queen and her life at Washington Place. The exhibit was curated by DeSoto Brown from Bishop Museum and designed by Drew Broderick from Koa Galleries. So it really focuses on what life was like at that time. So for example, we have on display a receipt from Kalihi Poi Company, and it's addressed to Mrs. Queen Liliuokalani for 166 pounds of poi, because she, as we know, the Queen really took care of her people, her staff. She fed her staff. So for 166 pounds of poi for that month of March, the cost for that was $5. And there's all kinds of scratches on it indicating that it was paid for. So it's just the everyday life. You know, the Queen, we see the Queen as Queen, as Ali'i, but she also was a person, a human, a person that had everyday responsibilities in a slightly different way. But it really shows you how she took care of her people and her people around her. So we really want to encourage you to take a tour of the home. We have tours every Thursday. We do special tours. So if the commission would like to come and see the home and see a lot more details than I presented to you today, please give us a call. We'd be happy to host you. There are no charge for the tours, so the public is also invited to take tours of the home every Thursday. We have a very thorough website. It's washingtonplace.gov. We encourage you to go on the website. For those in the public who want to take a tour, you can contact us that way as well. So please join us. Please join us in this special year of the 175th anniversary, and we all encourage you to help us be part of this commemoration. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Commissioner Lum, for organizing our Vihena, our opening for today. I'm not totally sure. Does anybody have questions for the First Lady? Okay. Ma'am, I'm so sorry we started late. Our regards and aloha to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Mahalo, First Lady.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move us on to agenda item number 2 with public testimony. We had not received any public testimony ahead of today's meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to agenda item number 3, which is our approval of our March 14th, 2022 meeting minutes that were circulated. Sorry, a little bit late, but you should have gotten them prior to today's meeting. I'd entertain a motion to approve our minutes.
So moved.
It's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion, members, on our minutes?
Chair, I don't have a discussion, but I'd like to abstain from voting since I was not here.
Okay. So noted. Anyone else? Going once, twice. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. Chair votes aye. Commissioner Onishi,
Aye.
Commissioner Bento. I see aye, but I think you were muted. Commissioner Benham,
Aye.
Commissioner Lum, Commissioner De Silva.
Aye.
Okay, I think that's everyone. Greg, I don't know how we do that with someone abstaining, but did I do that right?
Yeah, it's now on the record that there was an abstention. Could you recite who moved and who seconded? I didn't get the names.
Moved by Commissioner Onishi, seconded by Commissioner Benham. Awesome. And so we had one abstention, but our motion to adopt our minutes unamended passes. Thanks, members. We're going to go ahead and move on to agenda item number 4, which is a report on permitted interactions. The admin committee did not meet. The venues committee did meet on March 28th, and we'll cover the details of that meeting pursuant to Act 103 in agenda item number 5. Members, were there any other permitted interactions? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and move on to agenda item number 5, which is a presentation, discussion, and/or action regarding administrative committee update. Because we did not meet, I'm actually going to defer this item because no meeting was held and there's nothing to report out from that. Members, any comments or questions with that? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on now to agenda item number 6, which is a presentation, discussion, and action regarding the venues committee update. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Commissioner Lum to report out and lead our discussion on venues and programming.
Mahalo, Chair. Thank you to all of the venues committee members, Commissioners Onishi and Bento and Pu'u, along with Festival Director Salah and Kureha Pambid, who is assisting the Festival Director on this project, met on March 28th via Zoom. The primary purpose was for Mr. Salah to bring us up to date on his discussions with the university and the various venues that are being considered for Festival Village and other activities. So he presented to the committee maps of McCarthy Mall and Legacy Path. And he was looking for some input because he's trying to develop the budget for the commission to consider at a future committee meeting. So basically, so we looked at McCarthy Mall, and this is being considered as the main venue for the Festival Village. And then Legacy Path, do I have that right? Let me look at my, and then Legacy Path as to have some other shared sort of space for various demonstrations, et cetera, and other types of activities. One of the things we talked about was for the Festival Village, the types of structures that we might want to have for each of the delegations that will be represented in the festival. So we talked about having something as basic, of course, it'll all be dependent upon fundraising efforts and how much funding we have available, but as basic as tents and chairs and tables to something more along the lines of some wooden structures or something that's built out. So in our discussions, I think the direction that was given to Mr. Salah was that let's go with the more the option that will take the most resources, which would be to build some sort of structure, and we'll start, he can build a budget based on that, and then we'll see what actual resources we have when the time comes. Some other suggestions that were made by members were that maybe we can look at some volunteers to donate labor if we're looking at building structures. So perhaps with some of the Carpenters Union, other union groups, and or HCC, Honolulu Community College, and their apprenticeship program, and maybe they can get involved. So this was really the kind of the gist of all of our discussions. And let's see, I want to see if I'm kind of looking. I know we circulated the minutes to you. Let me see if I covered the main points here. In terms of the legacy path, we're looking at that being maybe a little more less formal space there. So as far as follow-up after this meeting, the festival director and Ms. Pombid will look at adding more details. Like I said, Mr. Salah is going to be putting together a budget based on some of the input that we gave. And then Mr. Salah and Commissioner Onishi will also talk about possible groups that can be contacted to see if they would want to help the festival by donating any time to and maybe volunteer any labor for any possible structures that might be built for the village. I think those were the main points, besides the fact that we decided that we do need to meet at least once between each of our regular commission meetings. The venue committee will meet at least once, because once we get the venues sort of solidified, then we'll start talking about programming. So we do recognize the need to meet on a regular basis. Other members, are there other things that I might have not covered, might have overlooked? If not, I think that's really the recap. And like I said, Mr. Salah will cover more details in his festival director report. And if there are no other questions.
Yeah, Chair, could I add something very briefly? Since you're mentioning McCarthy Mall, I thought the commission should know that historically, the second tree Eva of Hamilton Library, the place where I actually proposed marriage to my wife 42 years ago. So that makes it very historical.
We're gonna have to add a plaque like we do for like Banyan Drive. We'll talk to President Lesnar about it. That is awesome. Commissioner Lum, thanks so much for your report. Members, any questions for the committee? Okay, hearing none. I'm going to go ahead and move us to our next agenda item, which is agenda item number 7, a presentation, discussion, and action regarding the festival director's report. Aaron, aka Mr. Salah, aka Dr. Salah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will share screen today. Okay, so first thing, let me make sure that you folks are all seeing a screenshot of the landing page of the website. Okay, good. So this is the landing page of the FestPAC.Hawaii.org website. We are in process to migrating the domain over to the new server. And so unfortunately, this is taking a little longer than we had anticipated. We're in a 60-day period. I think we have 40 some days left. And that just has to do with the technology and the technical aspects of this contract and the migration over. That does not inhibit us from moving forward on the build out of the new website. And Stefan, whom you see as one of the attendees, public attendees here today, he's going to be working with me on this. So we'll be working with closely with Naha. But I did want to acknowledge Kanoe Takitani Puahi of Naha, who found this incredible image and then worked with the contractor, the vendor, to pull this landing page together. I think the landing page looks great. I hope and I look forward to the new website being built out and really holding quite an excellent standard. So just a note about this, that this will stay up probably until summer. I had originally hoped for June 1st. We may need to be a little bit flexible on that, given where we are with the migration of the domain. So I'll keep the commission up to date on that. Second thing, and this is the next agenda item, so I won't speak on it too much here, but the 35th meeting of the Council for Pacific Arts and Culture starts tomorrow at Hawaii time and goes through Wednesday, Hawaii time, and so we'll be presenting on that as well. I'll save what that presentation is for the next agenda item. And then, to augment what Commissioner Lum has been talking about in her report, just to bring back what we're talking about in terms of programming and Festival Village venue. I'll talk about programming first. So these series of bullets really are from a year ago, April. And these are the pillars that the commission approved for programming for FestPAC 2024. So I'll talk briefly about them now. We need to start to flesh them out as we solidify what the venues and what the main venue and the ancillary venues are going to be for the festival. The main core heart and soul of the festival really is the Hana No'ea, which is the applied arts. This occurs in the Festival Village. You'll see them as you look at the schematic in the next few slides. Ho'ikeike is performing arts. The venue for the main venue for the performing arts is going to be Andrews Amphitheater, also on the University of Hawaii and Manoa campus. And per the commission's approval, ancillary venues, of course, as well. We have visual arts. Convention Center will probably be the primary venue for these visual arts, as well as ancillary venues, including High Sam, East West Center, etc. Mia'ai, culinary arts, probably the Festival Village and ancillary venues. The Aha Moana Nui Akea Symposium will primarily take place at the Convention Center. And then Nahana Pakui, the details of Nahana Pakui, these fringe sort of activities, have not been discussed beyond that April 2021 meeting, but I envision any ancillary, any fringe activities would be handled at ancillary venues. And then the special events, the Vehena will be at Iolani Palace, the Va'a ceremony, etc. Ecumenical service probably at Koehao Church, and the Panina, etc. All these ancillary venues. So I just bring this back into the ears of the commission as we start to solidify these festival venues. We also need to start to solidify what the programming is actually going to be. Regarding then the festival venue, you'll see up there on the right-hand side, I'm sorry, my pointer won't work in this place, but you see up there on the right-hand side in the red outlined area, that's McCarthy Mall, and down on the left is Legacy Path. And so this is one section of the University of Hawaii at Manoa campus map that you're looking at. On the bottom section, you see the lower campus parking structure. That's essentially the main thoroughfare from the structure in crossing Dole Street into Legacy Path. It will be the main thoroughfare from the parking structure to the festival proper. And so that you see what the campus looks like, I've shared this map. However, we're going to look at McCarthy Mall first. And so as Commissioner Lum acknowledged, Kureha Pambid, who works with me, helped to pull this schematic over. She placed every tree. These numbers here are just meant for us to get an idea of what the main festival village will look like. They're not placed specifically at this point. We just wanted an idea of what the festival village will look like. By and large, for those of us who haven't been to festivals previous, ultimately the main festival village is a a series of dwellings that individual delegations from these individual countries throughout the Pacific will inhabit over the course of the festival. And the purpose of these dwellings is really to support the hana no eo of each of these delegations. So let me just read a little bit. The Applied Arts Program, hana no eo, include both the demonstration and the display of such expressions as wood, stone and bone carving, fiber and other weaving, jewelry, to include both featherwork and shell work, tatau, dye preparation, cloth and paper making, pottery, fashion, and other such appropriate genres. This pillar is inclusive of the robust carving program and fashion shows for which FestPACs have become well known. And so as you can imagine, it gets to be a really fascinating village that showcases all of the hana no eo of these Pacific countries who endeavor to make their way to the festival. We are expecting, I think, we may be expecting upwards of 28 delegations. As you can see, there's lots of, well, there's space for 28 delegations. I don't want to well, let me say this, the tent graphics that you have there, they're really just placeholders for us. As Commissioner Lum mentioned, we are looking really at the potential of using wooden structures that are, that are a little better weather worthy. So this will be the main festival village throughout the festival dates. And then this is Legacy Path. So at the bottom of the screen, that's Makai. You're just crossing the street from Dole Street into the Legacy Path. So one of the things that Commissioner De Silva has made clear to me is that is the importance of really getting the delegations to work together for certain periods of the day. For instance, then in the festival village, you'll have these individual dwellings where delegations can demonstrate and showcase their individual artworks and etc. But this Legacy Path area is where we envision the inclusivity of bringing delegations together, for instance, in weaving. So we would have, a delegation from Palau and Samoa and, Vanuatu, et cetera, coming together under one tent in this case, right? And so between 10 and 12, during a specific time, tent 3 would host weavers from throughout the Pacific. Tent number 2 would host Lomi Lomi practitioners from throughout the Pacific, where they can engage together to talk about the works that they do. And so as you can see now, then, let me go back. So these two areas then really make up a quite robust activity space, right? And then to the left of Legacy Path there on the left-hand side, you see Andrew's Outdoor Theater. That will be the main performance space for delegations to share their performing arts. So the Festival Village, I have to say, is starting to come together. And now that the Festival Village has been, is in process, I'm hoping to update finally our budget and get that presented to the commission in our May meeting. To that end, then I do need the administrative committee to meet between now and then. Let me check my notes. Yeah, so next steps, I do need for then the venues committee, as Commissioner Lum said, to start to meet regularly between at least once, perhaps twice between commission meetings. Also for the administrative committee to start to meet at least once between meetings. What I would like to do is over the next 2 meetings, by the June meetings, to get a budget approved by the commission that then affords us the opportunity to really start to friend and fundraise. And that'll be it for my report for today. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Members, any questions for the festival director? I just want to commend you, Aaron, and the work that you're doing. It's super, super great, and I'm grateful for your efforts. One thing that I think is important to note that maybe wasn't expressly sort of stated, but I think one of the advantages to the Legacy Path and along McCarthy and all of that is that our delegation housing is on campus as well. And so I think there's some opportunity for us to save some financial resources in terms of the buses and ground transportation costs not being as extensive, because delegations will just have to, quite frankly, walk across the street. And I think that there's some synergy there that makes it a lot easier for some delegations, especially if you have large pahu and other things that they need to get from venue to venue. Certainly helps with that. But also, again, it helps us be more efficient with the limited dollars that we have available to us by centralizing some of that, and then maybe looking at more regular kind of shuttles between the convention center as a main ancillary venue and some of that. So it cuts down on some of that cost. Chair Onishi.
Yes, thanks, Kalani, for bringing that up, because we also spoke about the meals and providing the meals to the delegations and the convenience of having it at UH, where we have already contracted, right, or at least contacted them to provide us at least 2 meals a day. But the other thing we talked about was that the venues committee and programming needs to be working closely together, and with Commissioner Bento, in terms of looking at where we're going to set up venues and things for the different programming. So I think, our committee is, I guess, getting more excited as we are beginning to flesh out these details and, anticipating the upcoming festival. So, yeah, I want to thank the rest of my commissioners on the committee and Director Salat and his leadership, because things are going to start moving, and I think pretty quickly. Thank you.
Mahalo. Members, any other questions? Okay. Festival director, Dr., Mr., all the things.
All the
So
things.
grateful.
Mahalo, mahalo. We're working. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Moving on up. Okay, we're going to move to agenda item number 8, which is actually an update and discussion regarding the 35th meeting of the Council of Pacific Arts and Culture, as well as the, I'm not remembering the number, 5th meeting of the Ministers of Culture, 6th meeting of the Ministers of Culture with the Secretariat of the Pacific Community. I have the pleasure of sitting in for Chair De Silva, who usually chairs this meeting. And just for a little bit of background for everyone and those who may not be familiar, the host and the next host of the festival typically chair and vice chair the FestPAC. And so Hawaii, as the next host with the 13th festival in 2024, is given the chairmanship of the FestPAC. And then the next festival, which will be the 14th, would typically be vice chair. There's some complexities to that right now, and Fiji has formally withdrawn their expression of interest to host the 14th festival. And so currently there's a vacancy of the 14th festival's role as vice chair that'll be taken on by Dr. Miles from the Secretariat. And so it'll be myself and Secretary Miles, or Director Miles, who from the Secretariat will become the vice chair, hopefully, in those meetings. And so those meetings begin tomorrow and Wednesday Hawaii time. And then there's a following set of meetings for the ministers meeting in a couple of, I think it's a week after, or 2 weeks after, thanks, on the 26th and 27th Hawaii time. And so I have the kuleana to chair those. Monty and Aaron in particular are representing us at them in various capacities. So one to represent Hawaii on the FestPAC and at the ministers meeting, as well as presenting our FestPAC update. And so in addition to our 13th festival update, which is in, I believe, session 8 of the second day of the agenda, we also have an opportunity where Monty McCumber, and I don't know if Monty's on today, but Monty will be presenting updates from the Youth Ambassador Program. And so Hawaii is really leading in a couple of areas. And so I'm super proud of our team and thankful to them for all of their preparation and efforts to get ready for the FestPAC meeting. For your folks' awareness, the FestPAC and the ministers meetings are really important in terms of us being able to communicate what delegations and governments can expect for the upcoming 13th festival. It'll also include an agenda that covers updates from the crop agencies and other organizations that are active within the region to give their regional updates. And one of the other major topics moving through right now is the RCS, the Pacific Regional Cultural Strategy. That's been under sort of work for a number of years. And so a meaningful update because I think it's a 10-year strategic plan as it pertains to the Pacific Regional Cultural Strategy. And that'll all be covered in the next 2 days of meetings with the CPAC and then the future ministers meetings 2 weeks later on the 26th and 27th. So that's an update from me. Commissioner De Silva, anything else you wanted to add to that?
Just to add a little bit. So since 2000, I have been the representative of Hawaii on the CPAC. The CPAC is the Council of Pacific Arts and Culture, and it used to be just the Council of Pacific Arts. And about 10 years ago, we added the culture to it. So I've been in that position. When we were given the host, the okay to host, and after the Guam Festival, then I became the chair. And so when that delegate becomes a chair, then we have to get a new delegate to sit at the table as the country representative. So that's where Aaron and Monty are going to come into play. And so it's really interesting because normally the chair is chair for only 4 years, but because of the pandemic, this is 6 years going on 8. And I just want to mahalo our chair, Kalani Ka'ana'ana, for stepping in for me in these meetings. We have some very important family things that take me away from being able to attend. And I just am really grateful that he was able to step in and sit in my position. So mahalo.
Thanks so much. Members, do you have any questions about our update or the presentation we'll be making? I know Festival Director Salah will do us proud and give him some pointers on some updates. Really, it's nuts and bolts items. I think it's really important that we communicate early some of the expectations around health requirements, vaccination requirements. And so we have those from the original information that we provided from the Department of Health. Obviously, we'll update that with COVID protocols. Some of that is driven by the CDC and some of the inbound restrictions that are currently in place. We know that they may change over time, but we do want to give them an update so that they have something to plan for at minimum. One of the other important pieces of information are visas and making sure that visas are on the priority list for all of those delegations to start the process now. I just returned from Washington, D.C., where I was told by U.S. Travel that there's an average wait time of 238 days to process inbound visitor visas. And so it's obviously a significant issue for the travel industry, which is why we took to Capitol Hill to express that, but also something I think we need to be mindful of so that we can get the delegation heads and those countries that information now. One of the things that I'd like to propose, and Greg, you let me know if I'm in my guardrails or not. I don't want to make a decision on this because it wasn't agendized, but what I will propose for the next agenda at the next meeting for your consideration is I would like to take a delegation, including the festival director, myself, and Chair De Silva as the CPAC chair, to Washington, D.C. as a delegation to visit with members of Congress, to see if there are opportunities for us to get into the appropriation cycle. I think there's also some opportunity for us to engage with the State Department, Department of the Interior, Crystal Ka'ai at the White House, and others to really make sure that we lay the foundation for a smooth process for our delegates to get into Hawaii and get credentialed. But then also for potential federal support of the festival. And so for me, again, I'll put it on the next agenda, would be this commission's approval for us to travel as a delegation. So just something for you folks to think about for the next meeting.
Chair, does that include perhaps establishing sort of a Hawaii-based federal presence for visa processing? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, so one of the things that we had started earlier on in our initial planning was to see what kind of opportunities that our embassies in both New Zealand and Australia had, as well as Fiji, within the region could step up or add additional capacity, because we will be credentialing delegates and we'll know, and the festival has very specific participation requirements. It's got very specific timelines, which is something that they, concerned about, right? Does somebody come in for a festival and then dig out and never sort of ha'alele after that, right? And so those are concerns that Homeland Security has. And so what I think we'll try to do, to your point, is see what opportunities exist for virtual visa interview appointments, because it is hard for these delegates to get to Suva or to get to Australia or New Zealand to meet with consular officials. And then on the flip side, is there potential for consular officials to travel to specific countries, maybe within the subregions of our participating countries, to make it a little bit more convenient, and actually aggregate it so it's easier for everyone. So those are, I think, the kind of conversations we want to have at a federal level now. And some of that sometimes is being a squeaky wheel and showing up at the door and saying, hi, I'm here, and seeing if we can't work that way.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Commissioner De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. I just letting everybody know that Guam was able to do this for their festival, that they got the US government sent teams to large cities, 3 of them, I believe, throughout the Pacific, so that they didn't have to, the smaller countries didn't have to travel as far. So it really helps, because in the Pacific, they have to go in person. They can't just mail it, they have to go in person. And a lot of the delegates live in the country and don't have money, and so the country's got to pay for all of that. So it was really helpful if we can do that, find out where those meeting places were that Guam set up, then we can probably advocate for the same process. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner De Silva. Members, any other questions as it pertains to agenda item number 8, which is our CPAC and minister meetings update? Okay, hearing no further questions, I'm going to move on to agenda number 9. Members of the public, if you'd like to testify, please go ahead and unmute yourself and turn on your camera. If you'd like to testify on any of today's agenda items. Okay, hearing none. I'm going to go ahead and move on to announcements. I don't have any particular announcements. Members, any? Director Salah.
Sorry about this, Chair. So I meant to mention during the report, but the May meeting will be moved to May 16th. Is that something to be discussed here? Sorry.
It is, and I'm not sure, yeah. Malia, did we hear back from everyone in terms of our polling?
Yeah, sure. Everyone did respond that they were available except for one commissioner. And that's because she's not with us today.
Okay. So members, I would like to then, since everybody polled in the affirmative, we'll just affirm here that we'll move our next meeting to the East West Center, Aaron, May 16th, correct? And
yes,
then what was the time we had polled everyone for?
I polled everyone from 3 to 5.
Okay, so there it is, May 16th, 3 to 5. Greg, I want to make sure you can be there as well. Wear your tennies or something comfortable, because I think we're going to take a bit of a walk. And so, Greg, if you can work with Commissioner Lum and the DBED staff to make sure that we agendize that meeting. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, any other announcements?
Chair, just sharing that our logistics team will contact all of the commissioners to properly prepare for that meeting. So mahalo.
Please make sure you park in marked stalls only, pay your parking fee, because we don't like give them parking revenue. So make sure you buy a parking ticket and park where you're supposed to. I'm having flashbacks and PTSD of my college days at the not Kapalama. How's me? I make like I went chaos. It was natural. It just flowed. Sorry. At the Manoa campus in the Uatuahine. Commissioner De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. Can you check with East West Center and see if they can get parking passes for the commissioners since they're inviting us to come?
We're already
In
working on
process.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
mahalo.
Awesome. All right. Any other announcements? Last call.
Well, can you have
All
a
right.
station for your attorney at Johnson Hall overnight too? That would be very appreciated.
Okay. And then we'll make sure, Greg, we plan for the blessing ceremony for the plaque on the second tree. Was it Eva of? Yeah, okay, got it. We'll get that ready too. Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and ask without objection if we can move to adjourn today's meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. I apologize for being late today. And to all of those of you who continue to follow us and put up with our antics and for sticking with us from the public, mahalo nui to you as well. Be safe. Take care. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha, thanks, Chair.